Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Liberty Report. With us today, we have Daniel McAdams, our co-host. Daniel, good to see you.
Good morning, Dr. Paul. How are you this morning?
Set and ready to go.
That's right. Let's do it.
Solve another problem.
Couple.
But we don't have to solve this problem we're going to talk about because Zelensky has finally come through.
He's got a plan.
He's given us the information. We want what's on his mind.
He's got a plan.
And he has a plan, but it was a secret plan.
That's right.
So I guess he's conniving with a political party here in this country that maybe they think if there's a plan, it will help them politically because hardly anything is done non-politically.
Yeah.
So anyway, he was badgered a few months ago or for a long time. What's your plan? What's your plan? Because he says he was always coming for money, and he always gets money. Well, give us a plan. What are you doing? How long do you think you need our money? Well, anyway, he came through, and Zelensky finally unveils the victory plan, aiming to spark war between NATO and Russia.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah, that's the plan. So it wasn't a victory for peace. Matter of fact, it's just amazing how they can stand and do that and not know what they're doing. If they know what they're doing, the evil level has to be so horrendous. How could a person be that evil or that dumb? But it goes on. But there has to be others that support this, though. It's not only Zelensky.
Yeah.
So there's support there, and maybe there were some philosophic grassroots support for him in Ukraine, but I'm not so sure how solid that was, and I'm not so sure that isn't fading for him, because the one thing is he's running out of troops. What is he going to do about that?
Yeah,
you know, so it's a real mess, but. I'm sure you have an opinion about whether this plan is a very good plan or not.
Well, you say that he's dumb, and that's probably true, but who's more dumb, him or the people who gave him our billions of dollars?
Here, us, our country.
Yeah, we're the ones, yeah.
We're doing our best to cut it off.
Can you imagine some generation in the future is going to look back and they're going to say, you spent $100 billion on that? You know, you wasted maybe 200, however many 100 billion. You wasted it on this? Are you crazy? Anyway, so he was. There was a big meeting a month or so ago, and he privately revealed his plan. And now he's come to the floor of the Ukrainian parliament, and he's given it up to everyone. Here's his big plan, the victory plan. This is the New York Times writes about it. Zelensky pitches his victory plan to Ukrainian lawmakers. And I'll go to the next one. Unfortunately, Dr. Paul, the rollout was not as dramatic as he'd hoped for. President Zelensky of Ukraine made a rare appearance in Parliament Wednesday, pitching a plan to draw lawmakers that he said could win the war by next year, but which has drawn a lukewarm response from allies. So nobody likes it. The broad outlines for the plans, which Zelensky referred to as a peace through strength strategy. Now this is funny because he's right now invoking Reagan with that. And you know, he's got hundreds of PR firms, people in D.C. working for him. You know, there's some PR dweeb, right? I've got a good idea. Let's call it peace through strength. You know, and these guys are making millions of dollars. But anyway, so here's it in a nutshell. Do the next one. The proposal, which Zelensky called the victory plan, aims, go to the next one. And here's the big plan. It aims to strengthen Ukraine's position enough on the battlefield to force Russia to negotiate an end to the war. Most of that would hinge on increased Western support. So in short, it means give me money, give me weapons, and maybe help me fight.
Yeah, and we'll continue the war.
Yeah, doing them more of the same.
But he wants to be in NATO, and therefore he wants to join the empire in a way. But he saw his argument. Well, if you put us in NATO, and then we can be leaders in Europe, you can take all your troops home. Yeah. America can sure, that's going to happen. Yeah. But since I think we have a leadership position in the empire.
Yeah.
And it just goes on and on. But it's no breakthrough for peace.
No, not at all.
It's a setback, especially if nothing changes. You know, if the money continues, and this administration, and even with the next administration, I sure hope that the hint that Trump might have a different position, but I haven't been convinced yet because if push comes to shove, they're not going to push him around. So what is he going to do? You know. So we'll have to wait and see and encourage him to do the right thing.
Yeah. Well, our friends DD Geopolitics on Twitter did our work for us this morning. I was happy to wake up and see that they summarized it, so I didn't have to. I could just send you their summary, and it's pretty good because they write, Zelensky finally unveils victory plan aiming to spark war between NATO and Russia. Number one, Ukraine's invitation to NATO even before the war ends. Now that opening point should be so laughable because what it means is you let us in NATO, we invoke Article 5, NATO goes to war with Russia for us, thank you very much. That's point number one. So number two, continuation of operations on Russian territory. That means the Kursk disaster, which has cost him so many lives trying to go into Russia. Efforts with NATO to shoot down Russian aircraft. Okay, that's World War III. Expand the use of Ukrainian drones. So number three, deployment of a non-nuclear deterrence package on Russian territory. That means you defend us. 4, development of Ukraine's strategic economic potential. 5, post-war military integration. Well, that's save that for later. But the thing is, the number one thing is basically, let us into NATO immediately, give us more weapons, and let us attack Russia. Well, unfortunately, the U.S., even the Biden administration, if you go to the next one, even the Biden administration is not swallowing this. U.S. ambassador to NATO says no short-term membership for Ukraine right now. And here, go to the next one. Here's a quote, Dr. Paul. She says, we are not at the point right now where the alliance is talking about issuing an invitation in the short term. So it's really shot down from the very beginning. I would think maybe this is hopefully the beginning of the end of this ridiculous chapter.
But he's had so much success in coming over here and badgering us and drumming this business up in the military and perpetuating this war. But I think the worst part, at least on the short run, is this image that he's like a super member of our Congress. He gets speeches, he gets special orders. Yeah. Oh, I'll be over there next week. Yeah. So block me off an hour. Yeah. I want to talk to my friends there and explain to them how important we are. Yeah. But, you headed toward this exasperation that how do people put up with this? Because when this thing comes down, and it's coming down, it just means that they're not going to conquer Russia. And if the people do wake up in 10 years or 20 years, but it takes them a long time to wake up, but then they say, well, is it related to the poverty? By that time, our poverty-ridden economy is going to be very evident. Yeah. And will they relate it to that? Not too well. So it's a shame that the people in this country go along with it because that's where it should stop. Yeah. But that is the blessings of excessive wealth. A wealthy country, and then a currency that is falsely conceived that it's gold and it's going to last forever. So therefore, it can't be challenged, and there's so far the cost is not identified. A little hint of paying for this, and all the malinvestment that we're hearing about in this country, and the continuation of prices going up, which is the tax they're paying. Yeah. So it's a very slow process, and then connecting the two is the big thing, and that means you have to challenge, the progressive philosophy of 120 years, and it has to be challenging the universities, the nonsense, the mainstream media. So we have a job, but I still believe that our issues are very much on target, and that ideas do have consequence, and percentages of who to identify in such a way isn't the final answer. Yeah. It's good to get a general attitude. Yes, it's better to live in a free country than a tyrannical country, but we don't want to wait until that gets so bad that the people finally wake up. Why don't we get them to wake up sooner? Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, the use of peace through strength, invoking Reagan in his statement, it's not without irony, because I'm sure you remember it very well, Dr. Paul. The late Cold War strategy of the United States was, under Reagan, was a huge arms buildup with the idea that the Soviets would try to match us And because we knew their economy was weak, it would destroy the Soviet Union. And that's exactly what's happening to us with Russia. Russia is just sitting back watching us spending these hundreds of $billions that we don't have and watching our country implode. They're actually, I don't know if they're doing it on purpose, but we are basically burying ourselves. You don't need Khrushchev to say we will bury you. We're burying ourselves. We're doing to ourselves what we try to do to the Soviets.
I think their strategy still is there. And one is, well, if they're not spending it on the weapons and competing with us, I wonder what they're doing. I wonder if they're buying gold, hanging on to gold.
They got some gold, yeah.
I wonder if they're taking advantage of the closer association with China right now. And, and they're long-term planners, you know. It's a mess.
Yeah.
But we have to keep plugging away because the answers are not complex.
Well, here's another mess, and it's a mess in the Middle East. And, you know, the Biden administration, Dr. Paul, finally got tough. There have been probably 100,000 Palestinians killed, most of them civilians, in Gaza. Probably more when the smoke clears, and a lot of them are dying because they're starving to death because they're not getting any food. So the Biden administration is cracking down. Go to the next one. They sent a strongly worded letter to Netanyahu. Put on that next clip. Report, and this is Dave DeCamp, an anti-war, puts this up. Report, the U.S. gives Israel until after the election to ease the starving of Palestinians. So you can starve them for the next 30 days, but after the election, we're going to be really upset with you if you keep starving them.
And even if they got done what they're claiming they would do, they're not going to do it, and it's not going to solve the problem, and they're missing the target on purpose, trying to distract somebody. But they want this to be a positive political stunt for the campaign against Trump.
Yeah, exactly. But the other thing, there's a legal component to it, though, because legally, if there is a conclusion that a recipient of U.S. military aid is violating human rights, under U.S. law, you must suspend arms sales. So Blinken could actually get in trouble. And actually, skip that next one and go to the one that says the letter says that a failure. I think this is very important, and a lot of people are picking up on this. The letter, this is a strongly worded letter that they sent to Bibi. The letter says that a failure to implement these measures may have, quote, implications for U.S. policy under NSM 20 and relevant U.S. law, weapons supply, referring to foreign assistance laws that prohibit U.S. military aid to countries blocking aid deliveries. And this is an important part. U.S. government agencies had previously concluded that Israel was deliberately blocking aid, but Blinken overrode those concerns to ensure U.S. weapons continued to flow to Israel. So Blinken himself broke the law. It was USAID, it was the State Department. These were government agencies run in the Biden administration by Biden people saying Israel's blocking aid. Blinken said, shut up, we're going to send some more weapons.
So it simply is, we overrode it. And that's the rule of law. Write a law and pretend it's going to do some good when we don't like it. Most of the time they do it deceitfully, they just ignore it, and it takes a while to catch up. But at least it's in discussion. But it still doesn't wake up enough people. The process continues, which is a tragedy as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's terrible. And the thing about it, this is a strongly worded letter. Put on the next one, because this is the thing. You read it, you read the fine print. Come on, this is a joke. Put on that next clip, please. Well, the letter hints that Israel's failure to take steps the U.S. is asking for could impact military aid. It doesn't threaten to cut off weapons shipments. State Department spokesman Matt Miller was asked on Tuesday what the consequences might be for Israel. He wouldn't say. So basically, if I were Netanyahu, I'd say, so what? What are you going to do if I don't listen to you? I don't know. We're going to get mad at you? There's no teeth in it. It's a complete joke. But you alluded to this when you opened on this particular topic, Dr. Paul. This is about elections. Go to the next one, because this is exactly where we're thinking the same way. I just looked this up, Dr. Paul. This is the New York Times. This is Michigan, with a huge Arab American and Muslim American population. 48-48, Harris and Trump are tied in Michigan. The reason why voters are flocking away from Harris and Biden is because of their policy on Gaza. So you're absolutely right, Dr. Paul. This has a political component.
Can't get away with it. And it's okay to be political, because it was the subtleness of a resistance to the war in the 60s, it became political, but the people had to wake up, and when they spoke out and they started sending a message, and that's what's happening now. The people in this country are sending messages, and why are you sending this much money over there? And that's what eventually stopped the Vietnam War. The people got after their congressman, which it's a long way. It's terrible that it takes that long, and we should have more wisdom that's supposed to be running the show. But at least we know that people's minds can be changed, but it's a lot of pain and a lot of agony, and waking people up is very, very important too, and that's what's happening.
Yeah, and it's always difficult because when it comes to Israel, there's this implication that somehow you hate Jewish people because you're against giving weapons to them to kill others and get killed themselves. Well, we would argue the opposite. It's the opposite. But by the way, what we're talking about Israel, our friend Nasim Taleb, who spoke at our conference, I think it was in 2018, put up that first video clip because he retweeted something that is really horrific, and I'm gonna read what Taleb wrote before we play it. Now this is a village in southern Lebanon that was demolished by the Israeli army. Taleb says, and he's from Lebanon, so he knows it well. He said 3,000 years old with Biden's bombs, and he adds, anyone voting Kamala is complicit. Full screen this and play this. You might want to put there's not really much to listen to, but just, this is astonishing. This is a 3,000-year-old village that, just watch what happens to this village. The entire village demolished at once. And someone else remarked about the village. It's called, and excuse me, I can't pronounce it, Mahabib in Lebanon. It includes the shrine of the prophet Benjamin, the son of Jacob, a site that is more than 2,100 years old. Shh, gone.
I see a lot of problems that bring these problems up. Internationalism is one, United Nations and the different things. Also, it's the fact that there's a financial interest here. It's the military-industrial complex, and then there's religious factors as well that get involved. And it has, tries to explain this. But when you think about this, our aid to one side of this that we send bombs to, that things like this happen, is just so outrageous. And then people suggest, oh well, it's not racism, it's not genocide. We just kill them, by 3 or 4 people at a time. But no, they've gotten over the hurdle of when it's a small number, it's a tragedy. When it's 1 million or 2, nobody pays any attention. We must be getting to that point. But we do hear rumblings in this country that maybe enough is enough. The market will eventually do it. The market will take care of it, because we have to print the money. We have to do that for the debt, and that causes distortion and prices to go up. And they claim, oh no, it's different this time. This is a soft landing. It's not going to be any softer than what we just watched on that blowing up that city.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, our last story that we're going to cover today is kind of a follow-up from yesterday. Remember, we talked about how Kamala's big idea was to give black men $20,000 to vote for her, And then we also talked about Obama and how he insulted black Americans by saying, hey, if you don't vote for Kamala, you just hate women, you're misogynist, you're racist, whatever. Well, I didn't believe that they could top that, but someone did, Dr. Paul. Put on that next clip. Great intellectual of our time, Joy Reid, she said on her show, she claims that black male Trump voters are part of a global fascist phenomenon. That is a new one.
Does that mean that she might be coming our way? That she's against fascism and all this stuff? Good night. What a tragedy. But, there are political leaders, there are philosophic leaders in universities doing a nice job, but then there's these home-cooked thought leaders and political leaders, and they have allowed bully pulpit. I mean, and she's one of them. I think your friend Rachel, she's another one. And they're reaching people. But the market's working. You put a guy out there, and he's brand new, Musk, and all of a sudden he can outdo all of them because there's a little bit of freedom left, and he'll be challenged. But I think it's just great. The ideas are so powerful if you have the will to stand by and change these things. So these people think they're running things, but they can get the noise and they can get the attention. But the failure of it, you all the preaching and the criticizing that the conservative and libertarians have made hasn't changed much until just recently. Now people are saying, they're leaving him. They don't go to them. They don't. The newspaper business. Where is that? Where is the Main Street media? So that's something built in. So there's still a lot of good people that care about that. But what we need is an army of thoughtful people who pursue this. And that's why we beg and plead our supporters, please spread the message, because that's our only and strongest tool we have.
Well, we can't let it pass without listening to Joy Reid. So I do have a clip of her saying this. I don't know if you have your earpiece handy, but I have a clip of her saying it. Why don't we put it on just so we can hear? It seems to me, Dr. Paul, maybe I'm wrong, it almost seems like panic in her voice when she's accusing black Americans who like Trump of being fascist. It's crazy. Let's listen in.
Have you noticed how sharply the polls have shifted in Trump's favor over the last couple weeks? With these claims that Trump is surging with black and Latino voters and leading in every single swing state, according to secret internal polls, despite all the Hitler talk. Yes, this race will be far too close because, unfortunately, we do have a fascist groundswell in parts of this country, mainly among white men, let's be clear, but in small pockets among black and brown men, too. This happens to be a global phenomenon as women become more economically independent and seek positions of power.
There's a fascist upswing.
But she's indicting herself.
Yeah.
Because, the noisier you are about accusing people about the things, they do it on purpose. Just say your enemy is doing it, lie about it, and people say, oh, okay, I guess I guess Trump is the bad guy. But if you come around to thinking, well, the opposite is probably the truth, and I think people are starting to realize that is what the truth is. So when she gets on a rant like this, and there's several that still are theoretically supposed to reach a lot of people, but the people that they're reaching is sometimes what we do is we listen to them and talk to them to point out their nonsense. So we'll keep trying.
I mean, can you imagine any black American male watching Joy Reid telling them that they're fascists, saying, oh, I guess you're right, I should probably vote for Kamala. It's going to have the opposite effect. And there's so many videos up on Twitter, X, and elsewhere of black men saying, what are you talking about? You don't tell me who to vote for, I mean, it's interesting.
Well, it's the recognition that the conventional wisdom of interventionism and debts and these false promises, the people don't believe them anymore, but they shouldn't believe them anymore because they're not working. And the ones, the minorities that have worked their way out of it, now they're in the middle of it because there's still a lot of that. You're black, you're black and you're voting Republican. That nonsense that if you do that, you're not black.
Yeah, that's what Biden said. You ain't black.
You can't black.
That's crazy.
You're voting Republican.
Well, I'm going to close out by a little bit of good news. We did kind of a little bit of a Bitcoin challenge yesterday. And we got some Bitcoin donations, not a ton, not a full coin, I wish, but put up that last clip. If you're sitting there and you have your wallet app on your phone, go ahead and scan that QR code if you put it up, please. Thank you. Scan that QR code. Throw some Bitcoin our way. We love Bitcoin people. They're great people. And we appreciate your support for the Ron Paul Liberty Report. And remember, your donations to the Ron Paul Institute are tax deductible. Over to you, Dr. Paul.
Very good. And I'm going to close with, once again, thanking our viewers for tuning in and helping us to spread the message. But this one might just bug you a little bit, the little clip I have here today, to continue, and it's worth the effort. But, when we had that COVID fiasco, they manipulated the system, they manipulated medical care, and they had to help out, and they manipulated the statistics. So one thing that they did to create their mischief on reporting on COVID, FEMA started saying, well, if you've had COVID, no matter whether that was a cold along with cancer, COVID, oh, okay, we feel very sorry for you, and we want to help, so we're going to send you $9,000 to pay for your funeral, soften the blow. And I guess, in the short run, people say, well, I guess that's the best they can do, and they rationalize. But guess what? Once you start a program like that doesn't make economic sense, doesn't make economic or medical sense, it soon becomes evident that it's foolishness. But FEMA, though, even though that was started, several years ago, they're still paying $9,000 for COVID funerals, and all they have to do is find a positive test. That's why keep taking the test, and then apply for your $9,000 to help bury your loved one. What a tragedy, and a system that has just gone crazy. So that's why we advocate a system completely different, one based on voluntarism, where people have the right to make their own decisions. It's your money, you've made it, you should be able to keep it. And in doing so, promote the cause of liberty, and to promote the cause that says that peace and prosperity is worth working for. Thanks for tuning in today to the Liberty Report. Come back soon.